All right, Manu, go ahead.
Okay, Renat went through all this stuff. This is the last part that he left, where we only manage the application layer. We empower the user. We want to give them as many, so they don't have to worry about anything else that just develop and provide and deliver applications. So everything from apps below goes to the PaaS. And you have questions about operating system, middleware, runtime, data, some services. Yes?
Everything below goes to the
PaaS.
bus, BUS?
Pass.
Pass.
It's part of the
Pass.
pass.
Sorry,
Now,
thank you.
Service.
One of the questions
Yes,
I,
you
one of the
excuse
que-
my English, guys.
one of the questions I have about that is that it doesn't all have to go into the pass. In other words, your code sits on a runtime. So the runtime, to me, is the most important part that has to go in the pass. And then the runtime sits on a bunch of stuff, and that would be taken care of by the pass. But let's say you're running Cloud Foundry on top of infrastructure as a service like Amazon or OpenStack, then the storage could be handled by an object store that's not the pass. It could be part of the infrastructure as a service or whatever.
Yes, it is.
It could be whatever, right?
It is
So
S3, Swiss.
Swift.
Swift.
So-
Yes, it is also the data and the services. They are
Yeah.
not part of the past. They
Well-
are software that.
Well, my point is that it depends on what you want to call it, because one model is that infrastructure as a service apps and platform as a service apps all use like a completely different layer of services. And so that the PaaS app actually operates by itself, just running the runtime, and all of those services are independent.
Yeah.
So the database and the object storage and the message queue, and you can call it part of the PaaS, but they're not really run by the PaaS. They are independent third-party services.
But they're managed by the PaaS.
No,
They are managed
no.
by the
They-
PaaS in
They
these
do
cases.
not have to be managed by the PaaS, is my point.
They don't have to, but it is great that they can.
No, I disagree here. They're not. It depends. Managing the operation part of it, PaaS has nothing to do with operating the object storage.
Right.
So they're not operated by a PaaS. They're consumed by a PaaS. PaaS is just a customer.
That's right.
right.
And
So
that's,
there
the
is a
PaaS
good point.
application is the customer. The PaaS actually has nothing to do with those.
Well,
They
PaaS
could-
can be a customer of object storage. When Cloud Controller, you ask the question like where the Cloud Foundry uses the object storage and what are the options. So
Right.
there is one component in Cloud Foundry called Cloud Controller.
Yeah, 2 slides away.
All right.
Yeah, my simple point is that like I'm trying to reconcile all of this, and no matter what happens, if you're in a public cloud, there is an endless tail of third-party cloud services out there,
Yeah.
and you could categorize them and say the PayPal API will never be part of your PaaS, right?
No.
Right?
It could be. It could
Right?
be a part of your services catalog, which is
Right.
for PaaS developers.
So there could be a third-party services part of the tail.
Yeah.
There could be the short tail might be services provided by your PaaS, like storage or message queue or database. And then there also might be this middle tier that are services inside of your company, but are not part of your PaaS.
Are we getting hung up on tasks though? Because for me, that different components provided as services, right? As
Well,
platform services.
The reason why I think it matters is because you've got to decide if you're going to run this yourself,
Sure.
you've got to decide what's inside of Cloud Foundry and what's not.
Sure.
They are called.
Now inside Cloud Foundry, right?
Well,
If you
some of
use-
them are.
Some of the services are
Yeah, some of
inside.
them, if it is provided by Cloud Foundry, then it is Like some third party like PayPal, if you need to call PayPal API, you can use Cloud Foundry, the service broker, to say, okay, now PayPal's API
That's
is
it.
there. I make it available for the application inside, hosted inside Cloud Foundry to
Right,
use it.
right. And
That's it.
and the way that I like to, I see, I've been drawing a lot of diagrams lately
Yeah.
inside, and trying to actually get real about this. And you're absolutely right, because if you look at the actual call, that you're going to write code that's going to run on the runtime. And your code, when it goes to call a service, if it's calling a service that's inside the pass, it may not leave your application, or it may not leave the physical server, right? It may just run in memory, okay? If it's calling a service outside of the pass, but still inside of your network, it's going outside of that physical server and even outside of that virtual network to another service inside of your intranet.
Yeah, maybe.
And then eventually, if you're calling PayPal, now you're going outside of the physical server, outside of your virtual network, and outside of the intranet to a public cloud. So
Right.
these are all very important distinctions.
Let me give a suggestion. Maybe hold on to it. Let the presentation done. Once you get a big picture, it will be a better foundation to do this.
You don't know me very well.
He doesn't like any
challenged him.
That's fine.
Suggestion for
I'll
change.
make up. So
On the previous slide,
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
He has no
scale, on the
sleeping
right
dogs
side,
in his
scale
house.
silent managed by your provider is better to say managed by operator, and whoever that operator is, it doesn't matter.
And by the way, I mean, cloud computing is just freaking complicated. So, like, there's no perfect way of
Yeah,
explaining
go ahead.
this.
Let's go to the next one.
Okay, here this scenario where you need the applications to be delivered in one day, and you say, okay, I have the application. I show you the application, and it's really nice. But, okay, deploy. Well, I have to follow the process where I have to file the ticket, and the ticket can be approved to the manager, go to the IT guy, create the server, 30 days. So, well, you are kind of in a tough situation. Then they say, okay, let's do it ourselves. What do we need? We need this, that, and that. And the guy is not there, as always happens. Always someone takes the responsibility of specific things. And you need, okay, let's call the expert on this matter, and they say, okay, let's go, call for help. Please help us. And of course, they're not there either. And well, let's play with Amazon. We're talking about a developer team, a development team with some knowledge. The guy who had more knowledge left. But okay, we have an infrastructure as a service. Let's deploy our application there. We can do it now. And you have that. So you're kind of lost as a developer. Really, you don't know where even to start taking a look at that.
I will start with DC2, I know that.
Yeah. So when you are running a pass, you don't have to care about another thing, multiple environments. When you develop in your computer, probably you go to staging, and it is working, and then production clash. It breaks, and what happened? With a pass, you can do the same thing with the very same environment. The only thing that will change, of course, probably can be the size of each environment. So it will be the very same way of interacting. You will just pull your application through development, testing, staging, production, and then release again and again and again. We talk about this, we talk about this, and we already talk about this. And the other thing that Renat says is that with Cloud Foundry, you don't need to be logged in only one infrastructure. What it is not middleware because it's not that I give you some specific software already there and you get into there and you just configure some variables, some resources sites and some, I don't know, message queues. No, it's not, that is not the way. You don't deal with the middleware. It's not an application hosting either, because you have plenty of services and plenty of things that helps your application and make them bigger, smaller, and you don't have to care about those things. Yeah.
So I really don't touch middleware inside? I mean,
Depends on what you mean by middleware, but
You,
probably not.
okay.
what do you mean by middleware?
Okay, so for me, Q or publish and subscribe would be big. I'm a cloud idiot, but what I know is Q and publish and subscribe. Okay, so I just was a little shocked.
I will go into that direction
Okay,
really
thank
soon. There is a thing called build packs for that. I will
Okay.
write there. So it is not an orchestration deployment tool. This already this talk about this. He stole my slides. Where is he now? Good thing is that I am not paid by the time. This is really important. Not every single application will go happily from the way that you are doing it to the past. In the past, you don't have, for example, local system. You don't have consistency there. They're all ephemeral. So you cannot trust. The only file system that you have is the one that is inside your little application VM, let's say, right now. So there are some services coming that will provide file system as a service. But in the meantime, you can use some NoSQL databases to store files, to store videos. That is very important. The other thing is, there is no sessions, there are no information stored in HTTP sessions. That part is stateless. Otherwise, you don't have load balancing that easily and scalability. And if you start storing things in a session to make it consistent, it will take a lot of amount of resources and complexities.
Okay.
So best practices for application development on this scale is do not store anything. Just use whatever you gave to the browser or the user, and take that and the application when it receives it and say, okay, now I will realize who this guy is, and do the stuff. There are port limitation, only 2 ports right now. And what about the runtimes and the frameworks that you say, okay, do I have Tomcat, PHP, Ruby, Node? Well, there you go with the build packs.
So, go back just for a second. One more.
Yeah.
Okay, so like it's literally HTTP and HTTPS. There's nothing else supported at this point, like I don't know, SMTP or something like that.
It just gotta be restful.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So it's all API stuff. And then, all right, cool.
Okay, the runtimes. They are based on one thing that Heroku did really well, which are the build packs. The build packs are pieces of software that you install in the past to support several types of applications. The past will have a list of build packs, and when you put your application, we'll go through those build packs and say, hey, PHP build pack, will you take care of this application? And okay, this is no, this is not an application, a PHP application. Next one, Java. Okay, looks for this. No, it's not. Ruby. Ah, a gem file. Yes, it's a Ruby application. I take care of this. What do I need? Okay, I will need to install Ruby bundle, get that file and download all the dependencies, the gem files, and so on and so forth. And that is taken care for the build packs. And there are a lot of build packs, and there are official build packs supported by Pivotal. I think there is Java, Node, JS, and Ruby, and I don't know if some more. But there are PHP as well from the contribution from the open source community. And you can specify, if you want one in particular, you can specify when you are deploying your application, you say deploy parameter build pack and the URL of a GitHub repository. It will download it and start doing all the stuff. And then is where you install the middleware, for example, the Rails server or the Tomcat server, or the runtime as well. Well, this is a funny part. For deploying an application, you just go into the application directory and CF push. CF is the command line interface for the REST API that Cloud Foundry has for the developer. For Java developers, also Spring Tool Suite. I think there's the Eclipse version of Spring. They also have plugins where they can interact more user-friendly. But well, I am a terminal developer, so I do that this way. So as I told you, just do this, and Cloud Foundry will ask you some questions, or you can specify a specific runtime plus framework. And for scaling the application, the very same thing, and you will be asked for some questions. Here are some components. This is the component that talks to developers. And developers interact through the CLI, which is either terminal or a plugin from IDE. That is where the REST API for managing your whole application and a lot of stuff is running there. So you are pushing an application. You are in your directory, so you say CF push, and you will push metadata of that application along with the package of all the files or whatever it is needed to upload. For example, a WAR file, or for example, Ruby, which is interpreted the whole stuff, goes to the cloud controller. Cloud controller has to have a state of every single application that is running. It is stored in a database. Say, okay, this application is running for that user, that developer, that belongs to this organization, and is working on the development environment. So store that and store the package in a blob store. And then say, okay, guys who run the applications and that stage the applications, I have an application here that I have to stage. And there are several virtual machines which are components with logic from Cloud Foundry that will take that request with the information. We say, okay, I will go and grab the package. I will create a virtual machine inside a virtual machine. So it will be a container, a Linux container in this case. Right now they are using a container technology that is called Warden. There are some thoughts of change it to Docker, but right now it's this Warden that is C groups and some quotas and isolations. So they create a container. That container, given the build pack, start installing everything there, what it is needed, and what it is when it is done, go back to the blob stuff. And the cloud controller can say, okay, somebody that can run this application. Right now, it sends to 2 guys, so because when you push the application, let's suppose that the developer say I need 2 instances. And there you go. You have 2 virtual machines running 2 applications. And here is where the utilization things come into place. You can have as many applications running in one virtual machine as the sum of all the requested resources can handle that application, that virtual machine, sorry. So there's a guy who's called the DEA, Droplet Execution Agent, that communicates to the cloud controller. I empty. I have this amount of memory, this amount of disk, and also I host this operating system. Right now there are Ubuntu, CentOS, and there are some folks working on Windows as well. So the cloud controller say, okay, take this application and run it. Given that for high availability reasons, makes much more sense to have the same application running in 2 virtual machines, even if you have space enough in the first virtual machine. If it goes down, it's more expensive to reproduce and get back to the initial state. And now it comes the time for the router. This is a specific piece of Cloud Foundry router written in Go language, which has a dynamic routing table. Why dynamic? Because every single time you deploy an application, you ask for a name, a domain name for that application, which doesn't exist. It will be a subdomain of your organization's name. So if I have manuelcloud.com and I push the application demo, it will be demo.manuel.cloud.com, and that doesn't exist. So when these applications are deployed, these guys start saying, okay, register this root. I have this application, which is this domain name, which is in this IP and in this port. The port is created randomly at a station time. So you don't know it yet. What it is known as is that the router accepts connection in 2 ports. And that's it. But it has to know where exactly it needs to go. So that is where the routing happens. And also for high availability, it requires a heartbeat. If you don't send me, stop sending me, you, here, this and here, you don't send me your heartbeat that I'm listening this route, goes down. That route goes down and it will start forwarding just for this only one. Until this application is resurrected and some other process is happening there. Any question on that? Yeah.
Yeah, has anyone experienced problems where it was just the application was bogged down? I mean, so I guess it's the executor that actually sends that heartbeat out, but I mean, have people starved the resources which prevented the executor from sending that out? Does that make any sense? Like, do you ever have problems when the app goes down and people are like, well, it was making progress? No?
Okay, fair enough.
No, yes. What you mean is that all the things, the little pieces work, but the application is not working.
Or it's working, it's just so slow that it's hitting the timeouts. It's bogged down.
Okay, but that is an application issue. It's not this issue. This route is available.
Okay.
Right.
Yep, okay, thank you.
So this, so Cloud Foundry should be viewed as an application, right? Which you deploy your application with, right? So it could also sit on the bare metal if I wanted to, or it could run in a VM. Is that correct?
That is correct. Right now, it is especially deployed on. I think that I have the slide.
Right, but for now, you don't have access to the bare metal because you're using AWS or
You don't have
or
access.
Rackspace. So you have to deploy it in a VM.
That's right.
Okay. So if
But
you had
Right
if
now,
you had-
I am describing this from the point of user of the developer.
Okay.
So the developer just know that he or she has an API, and that's it.
So
And through
okay,
that
let me
API,
ask
I
you-
deploy, I delete.
Let me ask the developer question then. On the
Mhm.
heartbeat, is it the application called Cloud Foundry that is answering the heartbeat, or do I have to put something in my application
No,
to
no,
answer
no.
the heartbeat?
Your application is completely unaware of that. Is this container here that holds your application that has to say, I'm alive. If it crashes, it has nothing, probably has to do with your application, and probably it doesn't. But it is the responsibility of Cloud Foundry to do that. It's the internal way on routing and high availability.
So the, sorry, what did you call the person doing the answering?
The container.
The container.
The container.
So the container looks in the process table and says, it's not running, and it says no, right? Is that the way that works, or?
No, the
Heartbeat mechanism.
let me remember this.
This is droplet execution engine that runs containers, and there is also a health manager that monitors the containers are alive. And once your application container goes down, a health manager notifies the system that this container went down and we need to deploy it. And also
Yes.
there are you may implement algorithms of high availability when you will have various instances of the same application running on different servers or in different availability zones, if you will. In that case, when you have this high availability setup, one container goes down, the application will still running. But the responsibility of health manager will be to make container backup again. Does that address your question?
Sort of. So yeah, let me try to address it a little bit. So
I forgot one thing. I forgot one component. That when this is created, the application listens in a specific port, which is dynamically generated. And there is a component that also ping to that port to get a response. So if the application is stale, it will consider to be destroyed.
that
It's
is
like this has to be removed.
So you're saying there's an HTTP pinger
Yeah,
pinging
yeah,
the front end of the service.
yeah.
But there's nothing in the OS that's really sort of checking all the system services that
No,
you
no,
might
no.
be using or something. It's
No,
very
it's
simple
just from
HTTP
from
pinger.
outside,
Okay.
and your application has
no, on each
nothing
of
to
the
do.
virtual machine
Yeah.
that run in Cloud Foundry, there's some kind of agent kind of thing. So in Cloud Foundry, it is called DEA, Droplet Execution Agent. So that one will monitor all the executor inside that VM to see, okay, now whether it is still using CPU and some others too.
Hmm.
Based on that, it will push those information through the message booker, no, not message booker, through the messaging mechanism, to the health manager. It has a component for health manager that keep track of all those heartbeats. once health manager figure out, okay, there's a executor that is down, it will send the information back to the cloud controller. The cloud controller will decide, okay, whether I need to create another instance or do something. That's
Yeah, the health manager is a really, really crucial and important component.
Would you say that the metrics for that are independent, or do they get it from the same place, for example, like Cloud Stack Scheduler?
No,
I mean,
no
Open
metrics.
Stack Scheduler
No
gets it
metrics
from
there.
it.
It's just information within Cloud Foundry.
Yeah, we
It
can
is, you have
consolidate in that
Two,
container.
two things. The cloud controller has a database. In that database it says, I have this application with this amount of instances that belong to this organization, all these things. And the health manager listens to every single component saying, I'm okay. And once in a while, which is really frequent, it says, okay, what is here? And what is the desirable state? Something is different? Okay. Create new ones. Destroy the one that are crashed. And it always keeps the very same image. And that happens really fast. Because you already have the application stage here. The containerization, the container creation is really fast. So next time the health manager starts listening again, same situation, running and expected.
Where does it touch the infrastructure as a service? Does it ever?
Nothing. No, at this point, it's nothing. Because we are talking about just